Hello, Lisa here. If you think you go to sleep at night and think you have experiences and do stuff, more than likely you do. We consider this that you're working for the army of the Lord or you're working for the army of the bad guys. Either way, I'm speaking to you. These theorems are based on Dolores Cannon's work, reading the Bible, and my own personal experiences. Today is Thursday. It's Thursday. Oh, and I haven't met anyone from 5D yet. I'm out here because God has asked me to come back. Actually, I had a long conversation with the spirits, spoke to Jesus. Jesus is requiring this of me, so here I am. I've walked away from the Lord back in 1994 and spent a long time out of um, out of time in a way, and was utilized by a group of people, covens, uh, most brutally. And so now, in order to get rid of the demons and get my life back in order, I had to walk away from many things. A lot of times when we go through awakening, we realize we've hooked up with people who were not good for us, right? So, and tragedy and drama occurs, and then we have to reinvent ourselves. So that's what this channel is about. If you do not understand the dream time relevance and how we're connected with people out in space and spirits, all sorts of spirits, then this channel is not for you. Okay, this is not a regular tarot readers channel. This is for people who have identified the fact that they go up into space and have other positions in different layers and levels of life. In other words, we're opening up our matrix and moving on. Okay, that's what this channel is for. Um, so scroll on. Thank you for checking it out. But you're welcome to stay and listen. Today is Thursday, and as I spoke to God and He requested me to come back out here, I said, I'm not coming back till somebody in 5D meets me and blah, blah, blah. They will. It'll happen. It has to, okay? Because there's circumstantial evidence and things. Somebody's going to have to talk to me. You can't get away from that, okay? But me and God and Jesus and all the other spirits that I talk to, I am a psychic medium. We decided we're going to do it a little bit differently. So today is Thursday. Thursday's based on it's Thor's Day, which is really interesting because when I pulled the Boom Boom cards, Thor said, yes, this is good. Um, and I'm going to read Thor's Day. So every Thor's Day, I'm going to talk about this book, Angels Don't Play This Harp. Okay? This is information that's been repressed. This book is no longer in print. It's written by Nick Begich, and I hope I say your name right, sir, and Jean Ann Manning. The foreword talks about who they are and why they're involved in this, and they're both very responsible people. Trust me, I read it, so I'm telling you that. But we're going to go right into chapter 1, and after I read chapter 1, it's not very long. I have a card pull for the collective. And then I'm going to sing some silly songs ridiculing some of my persecutors. So, but I'll do the important stuff first. So let's go to it. The first chapter 1 is called The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Lightning flickered and thunder crashed through the mountain air as if queued up to open the International Tesla Society's July 1986 symposium. A woman admired the jagged streaks of light as she walked from downtown Colorado Springs to the College of the Canyon. The display of light and sound seemed to have a life of its own and triggered thoughts about Earth's life-protecting layers. The layers appear immensely deep to a human looking up from a sidewalk, but the few hundred miles of depth of the atmospheric layers are to the planet as a film of paint is to a student's desk globe. Unlike layers of paint, however, the atmospheric veils swirl and flow and interact. She found comfort in thinking that surely no one could tame Earth's dynamic atmosphere. Granted, nature is under siege elsewhere. Engineers straighten undulating wild rivers and slap them into concrete flood control channels. They shave Earth's forest and drain unruly tidal marshes. But who is arrogant enough to say that they own the sky? After a brief downpour, the storm curtain opened to an electric blue sky and the air sparkled with vitality. No wonder Tesla did his most dramatic experiments is here, Jean Ann Manning thought, meaning Colorado. As a freelance journalist, she was in Colorado to learn more about the work of some maverick engineers and their hero, the electric genius Nikola Tesla. In her research into non-conventional energy technologies, she had encountered more than a few books about Tesla and thought it strange that mainstream textbooks ignore such a historical figure. In the 19th century, he patented the alternating current system, AC system, now used to generate and send electrical power to every home along this avenue, every building on the campus ahead, and factories all over the world. His genius did not stop there, however, and before he died in 1943, he had discovered more radical inventions, apparently more than the tycoons of the early years of the 20th century wanted to see developed. Manning was curious about the stories. Did Tesla really send electricity more than 20 miles without wires? Of course he did, people. It's actually relevantly easy. There was also the legend that Tesla invented a space energy receiver and powered a Pierce Arrow car in a demonstration of the receiver. Yet he died penniless in 1943. She expected this conference would give a broader picture of Tesla than her impression of a would-be god of lightning. God of lightning, Thursday. A view that came from seeing photographs of Tesla with bolts of lightning streaming from his fingertips in front of audiences of New York's cultural elite in his laboratory. He had allowed hundreds of thousands of volts to pass over his body and light up lamps, melt metal, and explode small light bulbs. It was a don't try this at home scene with the slender inventor sprayed with crackling electrical current as he stood stork-like on insulated shoes. Manning was fascinated at the thought of the elegant Tesla showing off for his cultured friends in his laboratory lit with dazzling, pulsating waves of light and unearthly warm hues. In the college where the conference was held, she picked up a press pass, then joined 200 or so spectators in Armstrong Auditorium. On stage, man-made lightning sizzled through the air, zigzagging from a giant electrical device called a Tesla coil, which dwarfed three technicians. Blue light streaked along the path of fried air, and members of the audience covered their ears against the deafening electrical buzz. It looked lethal, but the demonstrator explained that although Tesla used high voltage electrical pressure current, it was of such a high frequency that it danced over his skin instead of zapping his internal organs. A man sat on top of the apparatus before the coil was turned on with a deafening roar, then long sparks jumped from his fingers. In other meeting rooms, would-be gods of lightning told about their research. One of those speakers was Robert Golka, a sturdy man built with the cocky personality of a lone adventurer. He prided himself on making fireballs by whatever means, even from a circuit breaker in a railroad engine when he had slammed the engine into reverse. A fireball or ball of lightning is a glowing sphere of what looks like gases. The speaker said that Nikola Tesla's wireless power experiments near Colorado Springs made 30-second golf ball sized ball lightning in 1899. Why would anyone want to play with lightning in any shape? Golka was explaining ball lightning might hold the secrets of thermonuclear fusion and eventually cheap power. Gee, I haven't seen the cheap power yet, have you? He had rented an empty hangar in Wendover, Utah, the hangar where the atomic bomb was loaded into a bomber for its death drop debut, and built a Tesla coil that was 51 feet wide for experiments. Golka spoke of voltages of 15 million volts and lightning like discharges 40 feet long. He hinted that the technology could be used as an ultra-high megavolt source for particle beam weaponry. Manning wondered what the engineer on the stage really wanted to do: send electrical energy without wires, or get a grant from the military, or both. As if in answer to a question, Golka began to talk about the wireless power transmission. Nikola Tesla had claimed to be able to send electrical energy without wires before the turn of the century, and he envisioned people all around the globe sticking rods into the earth to extract that energy for free. He didn't get to send power to the people. However, after Tesla admitted to financier J.P. Morgan that an experimental tower on Long Island was meant to send power as well as message, his public career ended. Although he continued to invent and to learn, he was kicked out of the spotlight. Corporate moguls who were interested in creating monopolies and metering electrical power blackballed him. Golka spoke about his own Project Tesla, which involved building a 122-foot resonating tower high in the mountains. Manning struggled to understand what he meant by his efforts to get Earth resonance. She could visualize the more familiar resonance in musical instruments, and that helped to picture the Earth vibrating as if its note was struck. If someone strikes a piano key of the same pitch as a string on her violin nearby, for example, the string will vibrate. The pitch of a note comes from how many times per second the sound vibrates. Similarly, the Earth may have a resonant frequency. If electrical oscillations pound through the Earth at a certain rate for a long enough time, the small periodic input may build up to a large vibration. Could Tesla's knowledge about resonance really be used for advanced technologies? Now that's very interesting, resonance. And the very last episode or thing I did before checking out on you guys was about what I consider sonic resonancing. We're losing to Japan, Golka insisted. We have the technology and we're sleeping on it. Another short, lively speaker and an engineer professor said there is definite evidence that Nikola Tesla did excite the Schumann cavity in 1899. This cavity is the area between the Earth and the electrically charged ionosphere. A man from Albuquerque, New Mexico, brought the talk down to earth again with a demonstration of a squat piece of equipment called the Tesla Earthquake Oscillator. Stroking his beard, a trim goatee, his short onlookers that the oscillator would not be coupled to the earth during the demonstration and therefore would not cause any earthquakes. The mechanical device had a frictionless piston in a heavy casing. The oscillator pounds the earth and impresses on it rhythmic vibrations of certain controllable frequencies. He said the sound vibrations would bounce back and forth in a reflection pattern which produces standing wave overlappings or nodes which act as lenses to propagate waves which set up a resonance condition. There was the word resonance again. The electrical engineers talk about a buildup of ever more powerful effect. Manning may have had a puzzled expression on her face because one man turned to her and offered to further explain resonance. He gave the example of a child pushing a larger person on a swing. Small pushes correctly timed gradually increase the distance through which the swing speeds. In other words, small input at regular intervals can produce a big effect. Resonance would turn out to be an important concept used deliberately or inadvertently by men who try to tame the sky and in the process accidentally interfere with our weather, health, and minds. It says here, minds, people. But Manning wouldn't encounter the Skybusters until 5 years later. In another meeting room, a graduate student from Montana State University, Kyle Clicker, talked about the hypothesis of William Hooper, who gave new twists on magnetic theory. In the early 1970s, Hooper had been showing that not all electrical fields are the same. What he called a motional electric field was different from the well-known electrostatic field. The motional electric field results in a force that passes through lead. In other words, the field is unshieldable. Electricity on a different quality. Manning wasn't ready for that. She was still studying beginner level books about standard electricity whenever she went to a library. Over the previous few years, she had realized that there was a shortage of journalists looking into the scene. Engineering lectures were a long way from her university training as a social worker and job experience as a reporter. But she would look back on this 1986 conference and more than a dozen other energy conferences to follow as an introduction to the scene. They introduced her to the fast-growing field of study called non-conventional energy technologies. Even the William Hooper patent would turn up in her life again later, quoted in a Skybuster document that would frighten some otherwise unflappable scientists. In the 1986 meeting, however, she tried to narrow down what she was learning in order to make sense of it. History. She could easily grasp history. Next on the Tesla program was a man with a craggy face and the erect posture of a military officer. Dr. Bill Jones of Los Angeles was a physicist, retired naval officer, and former Top Gun pilot who spoke about Nikola Tesla's place in history. Fortunately, Jones ran through his talk at a much slower pace than the Mach 2 speed at which he had flown fighter planes. This physicist made it clear that he wanted Tesla reinstated in a place of honor in history. For example, Jones said, Guillermo Marconi got recognition for radio, but Tesla had demonstrated a remote control in Madison Square Garden several years before Marconi's announcement. Dr. Jones also told about incidents such as the time in 1911 when Tesla described how radar could work. Tesla was too far ahead of his time to be heard. 6 years later, Tesla had offered his invention of a particle beam weapon to the U.S. Department of War and was laughed out of the War Office. Again, he was too early in the century to be believed. With a reporter's habit of taking notes, Manning penned the speaker's words in a notebook. What do we really know about magnetism? What do we really know about electrostatics? Dr. Jones talked about something described as force potential manifested by stress and not necessarily in the presence of mass. Some researchers looked at this force potential as being scalar electromechanics. Mainstream scientists are reluctant to accept these new and revolutionary ideas. Dr. Jones said, but the ideas hold promise for clean energy technology, which we still don't have. On the last day of the conference, as people flowed out of the auditorium, the crowd eddied around a man of wiry build, probably in his late 30s, who was speaking in an abrupt, insistent voice that could be heard at the end of the hall. I object to this deliberate buildup of a cult around Tesla, referring to things he never invented, never said, as Tesla's science. The agitator was having a negative effect on the men arguing with him about power beaming inventions. He appeared to feed on their annoyance. Later in the afternoon, Manning again wandered out of the meeting hall for a mid-lecture break, head throbbing with new concepts. The same loud-voiced man, whom we will call Gregory Jones, was talking to another man, and the two drew her into their conversation. Gregory had the bouncy energy of someone who looked for a quick laugh as well as an argument. Asked why he insults Nikola Tesla at a Tesla symposium, he replied, I like deflating idols. The iconoclast was a full-time researcher regarding what he said is a subtle, powerful, but little-known dynamic energy which resides in the atmosphere and nearly everywhere. He said a number of experiments have proven that a dynamic, non-material energy exists in all living forms. Manning had enough of wild concepts for the day. However, at a gut level, she felt that it was true. Living people, animals, plants, and even the atmosphere seemed to exude some type of electricity or vitality when in a healthy state and when free from the effects of pollution. Was it possible that official science really doesn't know much about something so basic? Yes, it's true, because the measuring instruments hadn't yet been invented to detect it. Gregory was saying that the coarse form of electricity used in 19th and 20th century technology is an irritant to the primal form of energy in air. According to the worldview, if Tesla had been able to send electricity wirelessly all over the world, it would have been an ecological disaster. And maybe he's right. However, there is an energy force that's just natural to this earth that could be harnessed. Humans, my least favorite species, Gregory bellowed, following the embarrassed journalist toward the door to the meeting hall. Listen to this. I just about got myself kicked out of the meeting. I went up to the speaker. You heard his talk. The electrical engineering professor with a PhD that Gregory mentioned had seemed highly respected by the audience. The scientist had done much experimenting toward the goal of repeating Tesla's wireless electricity experiments. He had talked about wanting to resonate the Schumann cavity, but Gregory was no respecter of academic degrees. He apparently had caused another commotion in the hallway by confronting this professor. I told him that if he tried to be another Tesla, he could cause the biggest ecological disaster we've ever had. In Gregory's view, it was fortunate for the planet that Tesla's tower on Long Island intended to broadcast power around the earth was never completed. After the banker J.P. Morgan withdrew funding, no other financier would touch the project. It was just as well. The project would have been insane, Gregory insisted. Whether they send their electrical power through the air or through the planet, he said, these experiments would be playing with our planet on a big scale. So what did the professor say? And I'm interested to find out, if we ever find out, what Gregory's science is on that. He said, well, we'll just have to try it to find out. Hearing this, Manning stood in silence. Gregory's concern for his planet's natural system felt sincere. He asked for her business card. To her surprise, he would telephone her occasionally for about 6 years, and he would turn out to be ferociously intelligent and the most relentless information seeker she would meet in the coming years of travels to conferences of inventors and other energy researchers. She was careful to pass on to him only non-confidential information from published sources, never fully trusting Gregory because of his extremism. But she did appreciate the long-distance calls over the next few years to educate her about what he called mad science. And that's where I'm going to stop today, because that's where the chapter ends. You know, I held this up, but, you know, you really can't see the pages very good. If you're ever interested in me getting screenshots and sending to you the information, I would gladly do that. My email address is available. So let's go on to some silly card pull stuff. I have some cards here. What should I do first? Should I do the boom booms or the reading first? Do the reading first. As I play with unconventional energy, when we pull cards, when we talk to other people telepathically and quantumly, when we attach with, when we pull cards, when we talk to the Lord, we're dealing with other energies. So to talk about this goes with this. So today, and I hope this helps somebody today, the archetype, the word for today is loathe. There is loathing going on out there. I've heard it. I'm a part of it. You're probably a part of it. There's loathing. If you loathe something, that's because that's today's word. There's the temple and the destroyer. I'm not going to even interpret that for you. All that I hear from Spirit is the destroyer will destroy something on your altar. If you send attacks to the destroyer, they will destroy something on your altar. Whatever that means for you, okay? And now, I pulled my alchemy cards today. We got Leo came up first. Leo is in the South Node. Hanging out in the past, man. And then the card Mutable. The mutable signs came up. So the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Now, if you're a Leo who's got like some bad shit going on with people of these mutable signs, you're on the wrong. You're in your past, and it's time for you to. I just feel like it's time for you to shed this shit. That's coming through to me. Whoever is dealing with mutable signs, it's time for you to shed that shit. Then we pulled your hard work is paying off. New moon in Capricorn. If that means anything to anybody. Now, I pulled from what is it, the dragon cards. Uh, a lot of you are in the entertainment industry, so I guess these cards really speak to you. But a page of pentacles, and look, this page of pentacles got the hand on the heart. A page of pentacles who is kind of a ten of pentacles, ten of crowns person. So this is kind of an elite individual, I'm thinking. Is going to completely walk away from a situation with regret or cause regret. With regret or cause regret. So somebody that you all consider as just a page of pentacles who is way more than a page, but you elitists put people down very easily without really doing your homework, and that they're going to completely walk away. And I feel it will cause regret. And then there's an empress. An empress is going to put at rest. An empress is going to put at rest this winning at all cost attitude of a group of sneaky snakes. That is the Seven of Swords, right? Somebody, an empress, is going to put at rest the group of sneaky snakes. I can't wait for that to occur. Oh, and there's our... there's the confirmation. Thank you, Spirit. Okay, so... Boom booms. Somebody needs to ask Bucky. If you commune and connect with nature and animals, because this is to somebody who speaks with nature, who's an old soul, and who's guided and guarded by the sun. Ask Bucky. Bucky's there for you, okay? All you have to do is ask. Ask Bucky. You speak to nature. You're an old soul, and you're guided and guarded by the sun. Bucky's got an answer for you. Speaking of nature, I want to tell you, yesterday was a very strange day. My daughter and I went for a walk, and nature spoke to us. We were up on the rims, and out over the city, I said, "Daughter, look at the size of that bird. He's far away, but look how big he is." She goes, "Mom, that's a bald eagle." I said, "Holy shit." If any of you have ever experienced an eagle in real life come up close and personal to you, they're astounding. They're huge birds, and I could see how they could carry your pets away or a small child. Their wingspan, I mean, how wide is a car? 6 to 8 feet maybe? And their wingspan can be 12 to 15 feet. And when they come up close and personal, it's just like you're awestruck, okay? And this eagle flew towards us. He flew towards us, and I raised my hand and said, "Grant me freedom and strength, O mighty eagle," because I'll talk to them. He flew and he saw me and he heard my message. A few minutes later, we had been walking, and there was a nice seat, and we sat down and took in the weather and the sky, and then a crow went by. Cawed at us, and then a second crow went by, and so we had nature speak to us yesterday. That's how nature speaks to me. And then I looked it up. When an eagle comes, it's a message of freedom and strength and independence and determination and keep going. So that hence is why I'm out here again today, because God spoke to me through nature, as he does quite often. And then the crows talk about, you're connected to spirit. So what greater message was there than that for me? Okay, the next boom boom message is there's people playing in the shadows of certain individuals. The Gorgons are watching you. Okay? And this is funny. There's something about a car. The jinns are in the air watching about this thing with a car. The jinns watching and communicating with the lone hombre. The lone hombre is on this bullshit with the car, okay? And he's being helped out by the jinns. So lone hombre, listen to the wind. That's what I'm going to say to you. And it's interesting, I pulled the cards and then Spirit said to do this, and Thor came out. Today's Thor's day. And these symbols were given by a guy named Zach, and he's like Phoenix Rising Tarot. I stopped watching him because I felt the energy that he's being manipulated by negative energy, so I quit watching. But Spirit said, go ahead and use these symbols. And this symbol is a symbol that says, dare to dance. So Thor is telling somebody out there, it's time. It's time for you to dare to dance. I'm hearing, in other words, it's one thing to speak the words. If you say words, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing, you don't do it. Thor's saying it's time for you to follow up your words with actions, because actions speak louder than words. Just to say words could be life or death, people. Remember, all spell work is words. Words are death or life for you. But to speak words and have no action is useless. What's the point? You're going to get judged for that. So Thor is saying, dare to dance. And to the entire collective, maybe somebody's not feeling good out there, lemon ginger tea came up, and do some chakra cleansing. You get a piece of ginger, you peel off the skin, you grate it, you boil it for like just a few minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, and then you turn the water off and let it steep. Then you drain, you use a sieve and you pour it into your teacup. You put some lemon and some honey, and man, that'll open up your airwaves and relieve a lot of congestion if you're not feeling good and you got any kind of crud. Chakra cleanse and lemon ginger tea. But lemon ginger tea is very cleansing generally. So people who've been fighting in spiritual battles and stuff, that's what's going on, because a lot of us have been battling. Battles have been interesting. And so with that being said, the way this channel is going to go, every Thursday I'll come out and it'll be Thor's Day. We're going to talk about electricity, which just seemed appropriate. On Saturdays, I've started to write soliloquies. So we're going to call it Soliloquies Saturday. And then on Mondays, the beginning of the week, I might just do a general read for the collective. So just 3 days. I think that's how Spirit wants this channel to go. And there it is, folks. That's today's message. And now I'm going to sing you a little song. It's about Sapphire Hangington. Sapphire. Sapphire's charm spell has been removed. oh dear, she doesn't look so good without the charm spell and her filthy rag that she ties up her breasts with and does besmirching things. Her rag is gone, the charm spell has been alleviated. Now you can see how ugly she is, and she's grieved. She's angry beyond all words can say as she attacks away. But Spirit tells me someday she will be on her hands and knees and cleaning floors from 8 a.m. till 3. There it is. That's all I have to say about Sapphire Hangington. Have a good day, people. Remember, you're amazing. You're powerfully strong if you give yourself the right to be. Be well now, friends. Bye.